Morning from a foggy Norway. We've left Voss. We're on our way to the Laerdal tunnel now, and then probably to the Salmon Museum, and we'll see if it's if we can find it. It's a bit weird to find, we think, or it's not quite as simple to find that on the maps as what we thought it was going to be. But we'll give it a go, see how we get on. Well, the mist has cleared for us, but look at that. I don't know if you can see it. There you go. Look at that. Yeah, across the lake, look. Wow. How strange. I presume, Voss must have been a bit like that, because as the mist was all around Voss, but once we got away from it, it had cleared up.
You can see it rising. See that rising?
Yeah, see it rising. Look.
Must be a morning mist.
Yeah.
That's cool. How cool is that?
Yeah. Seem to be some colours coming up that keep changing, so I'm presuming this marks the halfway point for these. So they're like purples, see it changing white,
How cool is that?
pinky colour. It's really good. Yeah. How cool is that? Yeah. So see what this sign says. Yeah, that would be marking about halfway, because there's 5 kilometres back, 6 kilometres forward. How beautiful is that? Really nice. We're about 5 or 6 kilometres away now from the Laerdal tunnel. A few bits and pieces about it. It's the longest road tunnel in the world. It's over 15 miles long, which I think is about 26 kilometres. Could be wrong or right on that, not sure. And every 6 kilometres there's, it's a bit unfair to say a light show, but there it's lit up in different colours, and they do that to keep you awake. This isn't the Laerdal tunnel, by the way. They do that to keep you awake. We're going to video it all the way through from one end to the other. We might speed it up when we've so you don't get so long on the boring bits. I should say the bits like this, but we'll see, and it depends if we can keep the camera going, because these cameras, as good as they are, they do have a tendency to overheat and turn themselves off when you're running it for a long time. But that's especially in a warm environment. So we're kind of hoping that that's not going to happen. We'll see how we go. Anyway, I think that'll be enjoy the tunnel when it comes up. Yes, now, whether it's because of the fumes that's probably coming through them or not, I don't know. Anyway, that's laerdal tunnel done. Whether you can cycle through it, which tunnel world under the sea or underwater, whatever you want to call it. Kilometre.
You're right. That's what I wanted to know about that.
Christine's camera we got on it, so she says
you might have said a word, you said a word. It'll turn it off.
Yeah, it does operate on
certain words that you're not going to say.
Yeah, voice control. So it might have been me
It was
with
you.
a word that it misunderstood. It turned itself off. It's a bit.
Don't say them words.
Come on. It's a bit like when Christine talks to me.
Yeah.
And I just shut down. And when my mum talks to my dad, you just shut down. Well,
that's one of the
that
words.
camera does the same thing.
Good job.
Well, 5 kilometres in. first section of colour. I think I expected a little bit more from it than that, to be fair. I don't know what I expected, but I was a little bit underwhelmed. I think I actually preferred the roundabout.
That was cool, that, yeah. I like
I thought the roundabouts were really, really good.
that. That was cool. Not seen that before. You're underwhelmed because you've seen things before. If you haven't seen one before, you wouldn't be.
Yeah.
I've seen loads of that.
I think when we get to laerdal, we're going to have a little bit of a look around the town as well. I think while we're there, looks like it could be quite a nice little town. So apart from the Salmon Museum, we're going to look at that as well. Possibly. Another 3 kilometres.
I just remember being like that up where every so often.
Pardon?
I just remember it being blue every so often.
I think the person that was talking to about that other one where he said it changes colour,
I think
that was the one that was back there.
I think so. You missed this then, went round, didn't you? You drove round this.
No, he didn't, but the gentleman was talking about it. He said it's a fantastic road over the top which avoids this tunnel, and he drove when he was going up to Nordkamp, he went over the tunnel, and coming back he went through the tunnel.
Sorry, did Finland?
He missed Finland
Oh,
out.
right, I
He
think.
said it was boring. Been there before. You can see why they must put the lights on every so many kilometres, because I know when we've travelled through long tunnels before in other parts of Europe, they are boring.
Yeah, alright.
Should be another one coming up in the next minute or so. It is for every 6 kilometres.
It's pretty halfway now.
This set of lights that's coming up now actually marks the halfway point.
Yeah, that was bigger, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I
Laerdal Tunnel, 24.5 kilometres long. Let's see what we get. Hopefully we'll be able to stop. We'll see. Say every 6 kilometres. We shall see. 1 kilometre down. To be fair, I might not even shorten it. I might just leave it as it is. We'll see. It takes effort to shorten it.
GPS signal lost.
But it is a tourist attraction in its own right. But I don't know if I actually said, but the lights that come on every 6 kilometres is to help keep drivers awake and alert, and that's the point of doing it. We're in Laerdal. We're apparently the actual river that runs up here by Laerdal is one of the most famous salmon fishing rivers in the world, and it's where kings and royalty and the rich come to fish. And I thought that was the Tay or the Tweed, but no, it's here. So it's a cool picture. Anyway, we'll have a look, see what's have a look in the museum, see what's occurring. Wow, look at those fish.
We got those salmon.
Yeah. Once we've done here, there's a Stave Church, which is one of the oldest. We'll be going to have a look at that. But there's a couple of salmon as a monument. The museum doesn't open for another half an hour or so, so we're going to have a little nosy through the old town. And where Christine is now, playing about with her camera. Yeah, we're going to take a little bit of a look in the old town. Looks quite picturesque, to be fair. Obviously not painted all up nice like it was in Oslo, I suppose. Be a bit more like real life, I suppose. Very nice. very different. I mean, it's not what one on our list of things to see, but I'm pleased we stopped. Whoa, look at them apples. I must admit, yesterday when we was driving, there were an awful lot of apple farms and apples. It was beautiful. And we even saw them picking them. The one place, they were massive. So, I think we'll go that way. But yeah, very nice little quiet picture postcard. Yeah, I suppose so. Very nice. I think Christine's onto the toilets, I think. Oh, she weren't looking at them. Don't know what she's seen. Not really sure what she's looking at. Oh, she just wants some photos of the houses. Now, if you, incidentally, it's a Saturday and it's almost 12 o'clock. So, give you an idea of how busy it is. It's like a western, isn't it? Mm. There's a hotel. There's a Porsche. That's how they started out, Porsche, wasn't it? Making tractors. The Stave Church, incidentally, is about how many miles away?
28 kilometres.
That's 28 kilometres away, so what's that, about 17 or 18 miles away from here? So Laerdal's church is quite a distance away. We will be going to have a look at that later. Very beautiful. The trolls in the gardens. Really quite cool. Very pretty. Very picturesque. I'm assuming, I've noticed on the sides of most houses in one form or another, there's like a connection, and I've just figured out what they are. They're all for connections on for hoses if there's a fire. And now we've got something quite modern on the end. Really nice part of town. Yeah, that was nice, that. Oh, look at that. That's how they do it then. So that's I don't know what type of wood it is. I know you'll know, Dad. That's bark. They're strips, they're bark. It's bark what they use. How cool is that? I never noticed that before. Yeah. So proper traditional way then was bark that they use, but I don't know what type of wood that is. I'm not into my woods or anything. Christine's turned up now, so we can onwards and upwards. No point in asking Christine because I know she won't know. What type of wood that is?
Tree wood.
Tree wood. Yeah, good answer. No, they did the traditional roof. When I find the tree, I know what tree it comes off. When I see one, I'll video it, and then you can possibly tell me, Dad, when I see you. Really, really nice. Lovely round here. Absolutely lovely. What a beautiful little village. Oh, the old town is. Smashing. Absolutely smashing. Okay, I've found one of the trees. This is it. I don't know what type of tree it is, but this is the bark that they actually use for the roofs. So this is it from there. So I must admit I don't know I recognise the tree, but I don't recognise or know what its name is, and no doubt you'd be able to tell me, but it's quite pliable, the bark on it, look. And this is what they got on the roof, and then over the top of that I think there's like grass What now? Whether they actually put on top of it sods of turf on there as well to do for the insulation, I don't know. But then the rafters that they got were there were some large planks, and then there were some wooden nails that were pinned through it. So but that was definitely the wood that they used. Now that's the old town. Very nice, really, really nice. And what a fantastic setting it's in as well. Unfortunately, we came back to the museum, and although it's supposed to be open till the 15th and open at 12 o'clock today, it's now, what time is it now? 12:15, and the doors are well and truly locked. There's nobody inside. The cafe's open, but that appears to be just about it. Christine's trying to walk around where the bins are, but I think you're better off walking around here. So we'll take a walk around this part of it. We're going to see if we can get a glimpse of the river. Actually, where we was working out our knock and against the pound, it's not as expensive as what we initially thought. So we got it down at a lot more expensive, but to be fair, it's not, and that's probably why it's been overrun with tourists this year. So, although I don't know if you can see that, not a lot, yeah. Although we can see the bottom of the river, and there's no fish on here at the moment that we can see. However, I will say the average weight of a salmon in this river is 7.5 kilos, which I think is roughly about 15-16 pounds. I think it's about 16 pounds, 17 pounds, around about that. That would be the average weight. I think the biggest one that's been caught was 26 kilos in weight, which, I mean, that's 26 bags of sugar, which is quite a size for a fish. Looks like people have been here and they've been having a go fishing, judging by what's been, the fact that it's trodden down. But don't see any movement, and it is on the end of their season. I say the museum's closed now. There's nothing really running. How crystal clear is that? Beautiful. And it's obviously, we're right on the end of the season. I think all the runs will have finished now. Beautiful, beautiful river. If there was a big run that just started, all local fishermen would be here now, Christine. That's what they do in Wales. As soon as they know there's a run, they start ringing each other up, closing the shops and God knows what, and off to the river they go. But there's nothing here. I've not seen anything. But sometimes you get the odd one or two that they can't get any further. I mean, they've only just come in from a fjord over there, a bit further upriver, quite a bit further upriver. You find some of them, they get locked in the current, and then that's where they stay. They just don't go any further. Very pretty. Here's one of them carrier things to get across the water. And that'd be for that hut on the other side, I'm presuming. Maybe it's difficult to get to normally. Looks a precarious way of going to me. I know Christine's desperate to see salmon jumping, but it's not to be today. Stave Church. Christine, you need to get a ticket from there.
Does it?
That's what it says. So this is supposed to be the most beautiful stave church in Norway, or in the world, I think. And any repairs or anything to do to any other stave churches, this is what they look at to make that decision. So anyway, we're going to have a look. So yeah. Right, this is Borgund Stave Church. The timber for the church here in Borgund was felled during the winter of 1180 and the building erected soon after. The complicated structure was built by travelling craftsmen with skill and experience. The Stave Churches are Norway's unique contribution to World Heritage. Most were built between 1130 and 1350, when the Black Death brought an end to new building. Similar churches existed elsewhere in Europe, but only the Norwegian ones have survived. Of the 1,000 original Stave churches, only 28 are still standing, and Borgund is one of the least altered. In this description we return to the time of when the church was built in just a few years after the Pope in Rome established a separate archbishopric in Norway. It's beautiful. So this is the most, or the least touched, so it's in its most natural state. I have read that when they're doing up other Stave churches, this is the one that they come to and the one that they base their decisions on what they're going to do. Okay, We're not allowed to touch any part of the church at all, and we have to be really careful with the around the graveyard as well, because they still use it today. I reckon a lot of the timber is seasoned on the root. Not really sure I know what that means, but whoop. Wow. It's called the Stave Church because these upright poles are staves. And all the staves are together in what are called pincer beams. And the diagonal cross members are named after St Andrew. Wow, this is stunning. Craftsmanship is just beautiful. Absolutely stunning. There the nails look. See them how they've been knocked back. There's a few new ones that's been put in, but I know they have doors, female and male doors, so they were on opposite sides, and this has been, oh wow. So the churchyard is still used today. Yeah, they're quite spectacular. I think there's 28 existing. This is the third we've looked at. We've got another one today if we can make it in time. This one's supposed to be the prettiest and the least touched, and the next one is the oldest, which we get a ferry across on foot for that one. But yeah, that is gorgeous. Love the carvings on the roof. Fantastic. But you can't walk in the churchyard because the churchyard is used still today. So it's still a absolutely gorgeous, and that smell that you get off it is fantastic. I just think they're stunning. I really like them. Although it's not like any of the other churches we see, but I just like them. I really do. That was absolutely stunning. Cool. As you notice, there's a barn from a farm from 1928 here, and that's the same. Look, there's the birch underneath. That's what I think that wood is, by the way. Birch. The turf on top. That's probably a better angle to see the church at. Apparently up until about I think it's the 19th century, they used to bury the dead in the church, but that practice was banned then, and I think partly due to the smell. I think that's what they said. And any stillborn baby or baby that was born that wasn't baptised was not allowed to be buried in the churchyard or the church. Oh, I got that wrong. Apparently, stillborn infants and babies that died before being baptised could not be buried in the consecrated ground of the churchyard. Tiny coffins were placed under the floor, even in recent times. So they couldn't go into the graveyard because that was consecrated ground. They were still buried under the floor in churches, up till quite recently. Wow. It is beautiful here. And there we've got what looks like the bell tower. So we'll have a look. I don't know if we'll be able to see inside. Don't know. Well, yep, that's the bell tower. Maybe if I turn this round that way, you might be able to see. That's the best I can do to show you. It's kind of a, but yeah, it's a bell tower. I think if I can walk up towards the church, you can just see the bells inside. That's quite spectacular. And this is obviously, excuse me, a modern church. You can tell it's a modern church because it's shut. It's closed. The belfry that we just looked at, the freestanding belfries from the 13th century. It's the only example of its kind in the country, and one of the original medieval bells is now in the new church, which we couldn't actually get inside. So never mind. With a bit of luck we'll be going to see another Stave Church today, but it's all dependent on times and ferries. So we've got 2 ferries to get. There's a town named after you, just to the left of here, Dad. 1.9k. There you go, look. There's our next ferry to cross. With a bit of luck we'll catch this one that's coming in now. We'll see. But we're heading for another Stave Church. The one we're heading for now is the oldest Stave Church in the world. Hopefully we can get it done today, because the forecast is not great for tomorrow. But we'll see.
In 600 metres, take the Manhala Fodness, Riksväg 5 ferry.
So we're into here for the ferry. Yeah. Into here, I think. Yeah. And then just pull up behind everybody else. And we'll wait. It is what it is. So
in
we
150 metres, turn right onto Riksväg.
This is the Manhala Fodness ferry. They call this one Manhala, so I'm presuming they must call the other one
Fodness.
Yeah, Fodness. So we'll see. Go up the lanes that he tells us to do, or she does.
Take the Manhala Fodness, Riksväg 5 ferry.
6 metres, it comes 6 to 8. We come up as 6
Continue
to
on
8.
Riksväg 5 for 3 kilometres.
So you'll have already been charged, I think. Nice to get on the top part, look. Which you are. Yes. You go a bit further if you want. There we go. Onto the ferry. There's no messing about when you get these ferries, straight in. As soon as it's in, off, on and away again. No messing. Really nice. There's the other ferry that's leaving. So they're, I suppose, just as quick.
Please follow the instructions from the crew, who will also provide assistance.
Well, again, this is pretty close to silent, so they must. I wonder if they're all electric. But, we'll have a look. Anyway, not sure where Christine is. Apparently, I read that although like these two vessels are named after the port on there, that as vessels get replaced and moved on different ones, they often turn up the older ones on a different route. So sometimes you can see the names on there, but that's there you go. It's on Funes. Must be like his sister vessel. It's a very pretty much the same as this one. It just seems so strange not hearing a diesel engine. And I think the first one was a diesel, wasn't it? Yeah, the private ferry. Really cool. Christine. fairly quick. I must admit, there's no messing about. As soon as he comes in, line them up, pull them in, drop the ramp down, you get off, and as soon as you're off, we all drive. It's so fast. We should have another ferry to do. We're going as foot passengers on that one. It's a very short one. Hopefully, if we can get there in time. So it's all about being able to get packed up, walk down to where the ferry is, to get the ferry, to go see the church, and then come back. So we'll see. Surprising how busy some of these ferries are. I mean, I presume in the out of season they're even busier. But, really, really nice. I suppose this is about as close to cruising as we're going to come to, is running ferries. As soon as you come off, it looks like we go straight into a tunnel by the looks of that. So we're going straight through that mountain there.
For din egen sikkerhet ber vi om at du ikke står i trappeoppgangene eller mellom kjøretøyene ved tillegging. Vennligst vis hensyn til gående passasjerer og mannskapets anvisning ved ilandkjøring. Riktig god tur videre.
Yeah, we come off here and if follow the wall that's just been built, takes us straight into there, so straight into a tunnel. Which tunnel? I have no idea, because there's two. I think that's about 15-minute crossing. I think it would have been that. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And silent. It's just kind of quiet. There's the other ferry docking at the other side. Look, they're pretty much in sync. Brilliant. It's time to get back in the vehicles again, and we're on our way. Yep, it's docking at pretty much the same time. Brilliant. So, back to the vehicles and then get on our way. Back on the gorgeous views again. Wow, that's a big town. Yeah, I think we're crossing that. be a really, really nice place to live, Norway. Although that fella from Syria weren't so keen. I think he thinks Syria's God's country, whereas we all know Yorkshire's God's country. Toilet and emptying place, look. Put a lot of these garages so you can actually fill up and empty all your waste out and everything. And the campsites tend not to have them, or a lot of them don't. So you drive to those instead, which, to be quite honest, is for a motorhome is brilliant. It's exactly what you want. For a caravan, well, not so. But,
In 400 metres, at the roundabout, take the first exit onto Primera Filksvej 55.
Look at that. Beautiful. Absolutely stunning. Stunning. Stunning, stunning. Really nice. You're taking, yeah, that's right, towards Lom. Everybody seems to drive nice cars here, though, I must admit. You don't see many. There is the odd rubbish one, but on the whole, they're not that bad. Diesel seems to be getting more expensive as we're heading north. So we're at it's 21.13 now. Christine would have been pleased about missing walking on, well, us being foot passengers onto this ferry, because you've got to reverse onto it, and I know she wouldn't have done that. To good old-fashioned diesel. what we're doing on this one, we are coming back again in not be long, an hour. We're just going to have a look at the Stave Church over on this side. Can't actually see it, to be fair. It's over on that side somewhere. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a long way.
It's probably, it must be as good as a cruise up and down 2 or 3 fields. I think we've crossed about, how many we crossed now? Loads. 3. This is our 4th, I think. Pleasant crossing. Now we got to walk uphill and to the back of this village.
All the best things are uphill.
Yeah, as Chrissy said, all the best things are uphill. And then when we go back, it's back uphill to get back to the van. But yeah, Christine's chuffed a bit that she didn't have to back on to the ferry.
Everybody please look behind the yellow line.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, that's us done. As easy as that.
Look to your left, right.
There we go. Well, I can tell you, that was a serious walk uphill to get to that. That's the world's oldest Stave Church. And that's our 3rd one on this trip. So we get to go up, have a look. Got enough time to do that. Go down, get the ferry back, walk back up the other side, and we're back at the van again. Christine's just in there buying some tickets.
Welcome to Stave Church. And before anyone asks, a stave is a wooden pillar. So it's one of these in the corners. You'll see them on the inside as well. So the name comes from the type of construction this is. And Uranus is the oldest stave church that we still have. It's from around 1130, so it's almost 900 years old. And it's the 4th building to stand just here. You can see everything from up here. And it was also a private church, so it was within walking distance of the owner's house. When this was built, they reused a lot of materials from one of the previous buildings. That's why we start here with the carvings. These were once on the front of a building that stood here almost 1,000 years ago in 1070, and the big keyhole shape was once the front door. That's still a practical door, it still works. You can see it from the inside. We try not to use it, it's getting very old and fragile now, but it was in continuous use into the 1800s at least. For a while, unmarried mothers had to go through the side entrance. Not forever, but a few times just to make it awkward for everyone. And also, unbaptized children were carried through the side entrance the first time. That's where the old baptismal font stood, just inside the door, so you could toss it in as soon as you came inside. Yes, that was basically the point. You had to get this over with fast before the baby had a chance to die, because then they couldn't be buried in the churchyard.
No.
And parents didn't even take part in it up until recently. That's what godparents were for. The mother couldn't enter the church for 40 days anyway. The father generally only carried the baby to the baptism if they had no friends.
Too drunk.
Yeah. If there were no friends or anyone who would volunteer. It was always difficult to get godparents for the executioner's baby. People like that. Now, that's not even technically part of the tour. That's just interesting
It
information.
is interesting.
It's interesting.
Yeah. So, anyway, carvings. So they're done in something called Uranus style. So the name comes from the church. But you see this all over Northern Europe at the end of the Viking Age and the beginning of the Middle Ages. It's usually very stylized with snakes and dragons, which you don't normally get on churches these days, which is a shame. It's more interesting. You also see it on carved rune stones and very often jewelry, especially brooches that are found in a lot of graves from the end of the Viking Age. So this was the height of fashion. And Uranus is at the moment one of 28 Stave Churches that we still have in Norway. There's also a slightly questionable one in Sweden that we don't talk about. But there would have been over 1,000 of these before the plague came to the country in the 1340s. We lost about 60% of the population within 2 years. This was a crippled nation.
Wow.
And people had other things to worry about than maintenance. So many of these buildings fell apart out of neglect. And of the ones that remained, many were torn down in the 1800s. They were getting too old and small. And a few of them were moved. Originally, there were no metal nails. These were built using wooden plugs, so you could take it apart like a puzzle. And you see this with houses too. If you had to move, you took your house with you in parts. So one Stave Church was sold to the King of Prussia, and he took that home with him like an IKEA flat pack on a ship. And they also lost the plans, so they put it together a bit wrong. The walls are inside out, which is
where would that stand?
that's currently in Poland. I've forgotten
Somewhere. Okay.
Yeah, I've forgotten the name of the town. KH something. It's a huge tourist attraction there now. Borders have shifted around a bit, so yeah, it's currently in Poland. And I don't think it's coming back here. Moving one of these is a logistical nightmare.
Imagine.
And one of these was also moved from a village just up the road out to the coast to Bergen. That one, though, was burned down by an arsonist back in the 1990s. We had a lot of church burnings then. Last I heard...
In the 90s?
Yeah, the 1990s. 93, I think, was the one in Bergen. Last I heard, the arsonist had moved to France and was a fascist, so it's not our proudest achievement. As far as I know, he hasn't set anything on fire in France yet. Right, so I'll mention... I'll mention one more thing before we go in, because this becomes relevant once we go inside. Now, this comes down to the size of the church, because this has actually been built in parts over time. So this section here, the biggest one, that was the whole church when this was still new and Catholic. The covered walkway in the front would have gone around the whole building then. Now the chancel, where the altar still is, that was only added in 1600, so that's practically new. And I love telling Americans that. Anyway, that extension led to some structural issues that you can still see very clearly on the inside. And these issues got worse when they added the bell tower. Before 1700, that was a separate structure a bit higher up in the terrain, so it could also work as a lookout tower for ships coming in, or if there was a fire. Fire is still a real risk here. Everything is made of wood and is also covered with tar. So if I see a lit cigarette, I'll tackle you just in case. This will still burst into flames, and that will be a very expensive lawsuit for someone. The tar is also what causes the black color. So ideally, the whole church should look like this. Because of the sun, it melts on the other side. So we have to reapply it more often.
You looked at the brown.
Yeah.
Really brown.
So all the tar is melted off in the sun.
Is that just for protection?
It's waterproof.
Okay.
So it's the same reason you have it on boats.
Okay.
It's waterproof, it keeps the wood from rotting, keeps away wood-eating insects. It's good for everything except a fire. It's very flammable. Right, are there any questions before we go in?
But that's natural tar. It's
Yeah.
it's, from the trees itself.
Yeah, which we still use because it's free and you can make it at home.
Yeah, yeah.
And it works. Yeah, we make this stuff on our farm. If you have a couple of trees, you don't have to buy the stuff. Risky to work with, though.
If you smoke.
Yeah. Should we go inside?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
that's cool, isn't it?
Very cool. Nice to learn something about it. Rather than just looking at something, you know what I mean? 'Cause you don't know about it. It's so nice to hear properly.
Wow, that's a key. Whoa. Wow.
Wow.
Okay. Right, you are allowed to sit down if you want to. We do use the benches. They're not very comfortable, but that's standard for churches. You can also completely ignore me while I'm talking. I'll just keep going.
We continue listening.
Well, that's up to you. Right, so I mentioned the bell tower outside. That's because of these. When this building was extended, we had a builder who might have been a bit drunk on the day. 3 pillars have been cut off in the front. If the 3 in the middle had been cut, that would have been fine, but the one in the corner has been sawed off, and that's load bearing. That's supposed to hold up the roof. That's generally a bad idea. So the building became unstable and almost fell over, and when they added the bell tower, that fell off several times. So supports had to be added.
Wow.
Yeah, it took about 25 years before someone
Really
realized
figured
that,
it out.
yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we should do something. This keeps getting expensive. Right, so supports have been added in a few different places. These are the most obvious ones. They're not well planned. Everything is now off center. The statues above them had to be moved. St. John looks like he's falling down. And these are even cracking a bit now. We might actually have 2 generations of possibly alcoholic carpenters. For about 200 years, this was a nation of drunks, and this was encouraged by the government. We're not very proud of that part of the history, but we had to do something with all the leftover grain. Of course, just after this, someone realized, well, we don't have any food left, so everything, this wasn't well planned in any way.
But if you're drunk enough, you don't bother.
You don't notice anyway. You'll eat bark and be happy about it. Right, so most things in here will be from after the Reformation, so after about 1600 or so. There are a few leftovers from when this was still a Catholic church, like the candle holders, both the chandelier and also the candlestick up on the altar that's shaped like a Viking ship.
Oh yeah.
We have another one of those down in the ticket house if you want to have a closer look at it. And we're still using them because there is no electricity in here. So on overcast days, it's always dark in the corners. We try to avoid using the candles if we can. It is a fire hazard, so that's just for special occasions.
Wow.
Aside from those, some of the oldest things in here will actually be the wooden statues above the crossed beams. The wood has been dated to around 1125, so they are as old as the church, and most likely made in what is now Germany. The paint is a bit more exotic. It's primarily red, green, and blue. Red and green can be made anywhere from almost anything. The blue color came from Afghanistan. It's made from lapis lazuli gemstones, and this was one of the most expensive colors in the world.
Wow.
The paint is pretty faded now. They've been up there for almost 900 years. We do have a computer-generated image of what these looked like when they were new. Very bright and garish, and would probably be a bit ugly to us now. They wouldn't fit. We did have more of these painted statues when this was a Catholic church. It was more colorful then. Some of them still exist. They are being kept in a closed museum in Bergen, and they refuse to give them back. Museums, as a rule, don't like returning things, even within the same country. Most other things in here, though, will be a bit newer than that. So there were no places to sit for most people before the Reformation. You'd have to stand and just hope that the priest wouldn't talk for too long. And when the country became Protestant, the priest could decide himself how long the service would be. So he could be up in the pulpit for 3 or 4 hours, and you couldn't go home. So benches were put in for everyone. There's a side for women and one for men. That's pretty common in older churches. The men's side have crowns. The women's side have hearts with arrows through them. You can interpret that however you like. And they are made to be uncomfortable, so you don't fall asleep. And sometimes there would also be a man walking up and down the aisle, poking people with a stick if they did fall asleep. Usually the man who rang the bell. His other side job could be to punish minor criminals. They could be tied up to a pole outside the church, and he would go out and throw cold water at them from time to time.
70 years ago in Belgium,
Yeah.
there was such a man as well.
Yeah, with the stick.
To keep order.
Yeah, I've heard of that in parts of Germany too.
The Swiss they call it.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't do this anymore. I don't think it's allowed, especially throwing cold water at people. Unless you pay extra for it, maybe. So some people also had private seating within the church. That's what these boxes are for. At least the 2 smaller ones. The big one was for new mothers and newborns. Before they could sit with everyone else, they had to be introduced or reintroduced by the priest. So if you were a woman, you had to knock on the door, he had to lead you in, say a few words, and then you could sit with everyone else again. And chances chances are you also had a party with your friends in the evening to celebrate that, well, you're alive, the baby's alive, everything's back to normal.
The side door just enters into
Yeah,
this enclosed.
yeah. I mean, if you went through the side door, you would just end up directly in there. Otherwise, you'd go through the front door and go in. But the smaller boxes, those were just for wealthier people to not have to socialize with everyone else.
It's everywhere the
Yeah.
same, through every ages, the rich
It's
get.
always been like that.
So, and it always will.
Yeah, there's a couple of odd things about this one though, and I'll get back to that. I'll just explain one thing because I always get this question, probably especially from Americans though, that ask if one of these was a confessional. There was one at some point, but after the Reformation, we started doing public confessions. You had to go up front and tell everyone in some detail what you had done to the entertainment of all of your neighbors, who probably already knew it's a small community. But this had actually another side to it. I mean, it was mostly supposed to be embarrassing for whoever it was. But also, if you happen to be an unmarried mother after you'd told everyone what you'd done, you could tell everyone the name of the father. Again, chances are everyone knew, but this would force him to both come up and be shamed by everyone, and this was said in front of witnesses, including the priest and the local sheriff, who would have it in their documents, which meant that the man would be forced to pay a fine to the state and church, and also child support to you. And if he was a married man, his wife would stand up and say, on grounds of adultery, I want a divorce, and she would get it. So it did have a different side to it, and again, this has nothing to do with the tour, but it's interesting.
It is.
I'm just basically using the manuscripts as stepping stones for other things. Anyway, I'll move on to some of the decorations. I've already mentioned the statues. We also have carvings on the inside of the church up on the staves. They're not as old as the ones on the outside. These aren't really...
I don't know.
Alright, so did you all want the tour, or do you just want to go in?
Both? Yeah.
Yeah, because the tour starts here on the outside. We're going to start just around the corner, and then we'll go in once I'm done with the introductory part. You alright?
Okay, yeah. Yeah, it's the oldest church. It's the most ritually decorated. I think so. Beautiful.
Used. These are from the proper Middle Ages when you get to 1300. And they're done in a style that you can sometimes see in Celtic manuscripts. But many of the animals and scenes are from Greek mythology, which got really popular in Europe in the Middle Ages and the Renaissance. So it's an interesting mix. There are also some images that are very clearly from the Middle East, but probably by word of mouth rather than someone visiting. There's a camel up here somewhere, which you can sort of tell it's a camel, but chances are the person didn't actually see it. But most of the art will be from sort of the late 1600s, and most of it would probably have been gifts from local people who could afford it. This was a private church, so donations were important. And the actual pulpit was one gift. It is more decorative than functional. It's not made specifically for this church, so it doesn't fit. It's too big. And parts of the congregation are unable to see the priest. Specifically, the people sitting under the pulpit. Nowadays, that's where you put relatives you don't really like very much when there's a wedding, but it is a little bit odd because traditionally the further up front you sat, the higher in society you were. So the poor people would sit on the balcony and get the best view, and the rich people sat in the front and couldn't see anything. One exception is the box in the back on the men's side. So there was a family that still lives here and owns most of the land around here. They owned the church at one point. So the men would sit in the slightly fancier bench up here, while their wives and daughters sat in the box in the back on the men's side. Otherwise, rich people would generally sit as far up front as they could. There's also some letters written onto the side of the pulpit. You'll see these in a few different places, usually 3 letters ending with S or D, which is someone's name, their initials. S or D for son or daughter. We didn't get proper last names here until 1928. You could have one, but you didn't need it for legal reasons. You had your first name, and that was basically your full name. You were also someone's child who lived somewhere. That last bit could change any time you moved. So if you were a seasonal farm worker, that last part would change every time. So it's hard to track people. And I have to disappoint people from other parts of the world coming here looking for relatives. That Scandinavian sounding last name doesn't necessarily mean very much. It just means that at some point their relatives happen to live on a farm with this name. They're not necessarily related to the people who live there now. Anyway, I mentioned that because this is someone signing their gifts. That was important. We don't know who made most of the decorations in here because at the time that was less important. You see the same even with the paintings. The artist's name aren't there. But the people who donated them have written their own names in. So in one of the blue areas on the painting on the north wall, there's a lot of names, but it's all family members of whoever donated it. There's also a lot of glitter in the paint in that one. Metallic paint was expensive though. You did use actual gold to make gold paint. Up until the 1960s, this was one of the poorest countries in Europe. We couldn't afford to waste gold on paint. So someone has crushed glass and mixed it into the paint to give it basically the same effect. But it's not as it's not as valuable as it probably looked at the time. Glass was also very expensive until recently, but not as much as gold. There is real gold though on the altar decoration, but that's not made in Norway. That came here in the 1690s. That's from Holland. That's their golden period. They could afford to use real gold paint, and it's also a bit typical just around that time for the Dutch artist to put the skull at the foot of the cross. That's a detail that comes and goes in waves in art history. It's supposed to be Adam, the first man. Around this time, it's mostly the Dutch who are doing it, and also us, because we have a lot of Dutch influence. So if you look in the little museum that we have, there's a priest's robe, a chasuble, with sort of 3D embroidered crucifix on it, and just under that, there's a tiny embroidered skull. It's a small fun detail. Now, buying this thing and bringing it all the way here to the end of the fjord would not have been cheap. So that was donated by one of the richest families in the area. They were a German merchant family who used to sit at the front. And like all of these families, they still live here. We don't really like moving around too much. And also because of land inheritance laws from the Viking Age, it's actually very hard to get rid of land that you own. Once you've inherited it, you're not legally allowed to sell it to outsiders without going through all of your relatives and possibly the court system.
Wow.
And get authorization.
Yeah, so you're stuck with it. It's not any little piece of land. It has to be a certain size and has to have been in your family for a number of generations. so I can't sell my farm legally for a while. Anyway, the point was, they don't really use their boxes anymore, even though they still live here. We do use the church, though. It's not just a museum. Yeah, it's not a hugely active one. We had a service a few weeks ago. I think that was the first one in about a year. I think the priest had time. Actually, the one who was supposed to come actually got sick, so he sent someone else.
And is it then a normal service or is it a special
That was just
occasion?
a normal service.
It's not a special occasion, it's not
no,
for a
it's
wedding
just-
or a funeral or...
No, that can happen at any time, and we just use whichever priest in the region is available. This was just a normal service because suddenly people had time. Anyway, yeah, we don't have regular services. This is a mostly non-religious country these days, so this is a fairly regular trend here. We do mostly have weddings here now in the summer, especially. You could have a winter wedding, but that would be very cold. There's no heating in here, and we get a lot of snow. The weddings are mostly for the photographs, I think. You can only have about 25 guests, and the seating is horrible, so the ceremony tends to be short. The legal part of it is just signing the papers, and hopefully everyone says yes, so that doesn't take very long. Baptisms don't happen very often. We don't have that many children here, and also someone stole the baptismal font. We're using a plate. The original was this big soapstone tub, which is very heavy. You would need maybe 4 people just to lift it. So we're not sure how they got it down the hill or what they needed it for. We've never gotten it back. We could have replaced it at this point. It's been 300 years, but we're still annoyed, so we never did. The thieves did leave something behind. The lid is still here. That's on the wall all the way down on that side. Yeah. Now there's this thing sticking out. It doesn't have a purpose. It's just for decoration now, but it is almost 800 years old, so it's a bit too nice to throw away. Funerals are pretty rare. That's only for local people. Anyone can get married here. But if you want to be, if you want to spend some time in the graveyard, you have to have a connection to this place. It is an active graveyard. It goes back to the Middle Ages, although most of the stones and graves will be fairly recent, so less than 200 years. Like in most European countries, our graveyards are full. So you only rent it, and after your lease is up, we toss you out so the next person can have it for a while. That's pretty standard for most of Western Europe these days. We don't have the room, we can't afford to be more sentimental than that. And the old stones end up as filling in the wall that goes around the graveyard. So it's recycling. For hygiene reasons, though, we've stopped putting people under the floor in here. That's illegal now. But again, common practice for most of Europe. If you were a little bit richer, you could pay extra and be buried inside the church. The more you paid, the closer to the altar you would get. And that's where the expression stinking rich comes from. If you've ever wondered about that, I think you have it, you have it in at least, English, Dutch, German, Flemish too, maybe. Yeah. For obvious reasons, once you start thinking about it. They are still down in the cellar. They mostly get left alone. They're not really in the way. They have been taken out a few times when we've had to do repairs, and after the last time they all got nice new coffins after one of them broke in a very unfortunate way. If you do hear banging noises under the floor, it's most likely the sprinkler system. Just so you don't run out, a woman did that once after she found out what we keep in the basement, and some very loud bangs came from just under her feet. It's just the pipes, we're not haunted. I'll just stop there before it gets morbid. Sorry about that. Alright. So, we actually have almost what, 15 minutes until the last guided tour starts. So you have all the time that you want. Take the last photographs, ask questions if you have any, just hang around.
Is that the back structure of the roof you see there? Or?
Yeah, so that's the original structure of the roof. The vaulted ceiling only came up a few hundred years ago. Apparently someone thought that was nice.
Is it original? No, that's all restoration.
That's the
You got the pillar.
Yeah. So this isn't so much restoration as a just desperate attempt.
That's for the attempt to keep the things.
Let me go around.
Yeah. This is. It's not very well done. Yeah, the horizontal.
Oh wow! Yeah, on the lock on there. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
You see
You see it?
nose, eyes.
Oh, right.
Yeah. His arms are crossed.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, we never look on the back of the door because of fire hazard rules. The door is always open when there are people inside.
Okay.
So, absolutely fun. You can't walk around the graveyard, Christine.
I'm not trying to see the side, the things off the side.
Oh yeah. And this is the side where the tannins, the tarmac, the sun has melted it all off. Oh, fantastic. Well, and this is like a newer part of it that they added on. And there's the back. I haven't got the walk around bit that we've seen on a few of them, but these are fantastic carvings. They're absolutely brilliant. So this is the oldest side to the church. Brilliant. Very interesting. Really enjoyed that, and it does look as a fantastic view over the fjord. Absolutely stunning. Lovely. Get them for apples. Right, we're going to walk down to the ferry now. We should just get there just nicely. The last ferry leaves at 6 o'clock. It's approximately a 20-minute walk, and it's about 20 past 5 at the minute, so we'll probably get there with about 10 minutes to spare, we think. If we don't, we're in some real trouble, because we're parked where you can't park overnight, we've got nowhere to stay, and it's forecast rain.
We'll make it.
But
We'll make it.
we should make it.
Beautiful.
Wow, spectacular view. Really, really nice. It was really enjoyable, that.
Well, that was the best one.
Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting. I think better when you have somebody else talk who knows what they're talking about, telling you about the story about different things and the family and that. And that was about 30 minutes talk, what she gave us. It was really cool. Look down, the ferry's just the other side of that tree, I think. So you can't see it, and then we should just make that nicely to take us back over the other side. There's a gift shop down here. Don't think it'll be open now. Probably be shut. Oh, it might be. The gift shop, I think, is that van.
Well, it says shop on the
It's
side of
yeah,
it.
it's that caravan. It's a shop on it.
Well, I think it's wrong. I think it must be this
Yeah,
one.
I think it means that the shop's there next to it. So it's beautiful. Bit of local produce on sale, I think. We noticed there was a sign earlier and it was telling you not really to pick the local apples or the berries or thing, because it's all part, you're taking away the living and livelihood of various people, so you know. Hi. Yeah, I should get some Christina. Never know.
Well, it's up to you. Do you want to get some?
Yeah, I'm going to get some apples. I'll let you know how we get on with them, or I do. We've come down. The shop's actually closed. Orn's mini shop. It's a shame. What?
A ham.
A ham? Oh yeah, it's a shop on there as well. Really nice. It was good. So now a little boat ride back, and then we'll go and park up for the night. And we'll not get much too far, but we'll be doing a wild camp. But just up the road from where we already are, so probably 10-15 minute drive. It's like glass, the water. There's not a ripple on it, and all the water all the time just seems to be like that. And we're heading over there. Absolutely beautiful. Another stunning day we've had. Oh. If you look at the waves down there, it's not even falling over. Very strange. That's where we're heading for. very pretty, typical Norwegian village. Very picturesque. Not sure how it comes across through the camera, as we're kind of pointing it direct to the sun. Often things come back as like a black and white on it, but that is nice. Really, really, really nice. So, anyway, we managed to catch the last ferry of the day. We've got to walk up this hill now to get our back to our bus, van, house, whatever you want to call it. But, yeah, there we go. Yeah.
That's how we say
There we
it
go.
now.
Nearly here again. Thank you.
Thank you.
What a great end to the day.
Yeah.
Lovely. So,
Thank you very much.
thank you. Bye. That was really good. Really good end to the day, that. Now, there's Christine spotted a monument. I'm not sure who it's to, but that's really cool. Yeah. Anyway, we're back on again and walk up that hill. In fact, to get the ferry originally, we had to kind of jog down it. Well, I think it would look quite funny watching us coming down that hill. I was rushing to get that boat, otherwise we just wouldn't have had time to do what we've done today, because there wouldn't have been another boat for over an hour. Anyway, all done now, and I'll just video a little bit of this little town. Very nice, very picturesque.
Charging electric car.
Yeah. There is an awful lot of electric cars here, I must admit. Troll. Yeah, the Scandinavians do believe in trolls, or trolls are a big part of their mythology, I suppose. Pretty flowers. Anyway, out the village and start the climb. Okay, we're just coming back into a little town called Sondal, I think they call it. And then we're just going to come out of that town for a mile or two, and then that's us. Back at that bridge we came over before. We're not going over it, we turn right.
In 600 meters, at the roundabout, continue straight onto Gravensteinsgata, Rijksweg 5.
Go if you're going to go.
I can't see. The other one went on the inside.
Well, this is our stop for the night. It's a free one, so there's a bit of a view of the lake and that. There's as you can see, there's a few vans that are already here. There's a young couple that are camping on the back. There's some picnic tables. It smells good, whatever it is she's cooking.
Barbecue.
Yeah.
I want a barbecue.
So she's got a gas one going, Christine.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, that's not a bad view, not bad. Good stop for the night. Quiet off the main road, better than we pulled up at one about a mile further back, but this is much better, and toilets as well.